Well, well, well. You just had to click, didn't you? Now that you've disobeyed the thumbnail, you might as well sit back, grab a snack, and brace yourself. Because what's about to happen will twist your brain like a bowl of ramen. Don't blink, don't scroll. This gets weird. Fast.
They say when someone decides to die, they don't cry. But that night, she was weeping. Under the cold flicker of a broken streetlight, she stood at the edge, barefoot on concrete, trembling not from fear, but from the weight of being forgotten. And then, he appeared. Silent. Still. A man with eyes like a grave that had never been mourned. He didn't speak. He just watched her. Not with concern, but with curiosity. As if wondering whether her fall would sound like music. And when she finally turned to look at him, her lips formed no words. But he nodded, like they already knew each other in a former pain. She didn't fall. She didn't leap. She simply stepped down and followed him into the dark. The silence in his car wasn't comforting. It was heavy, like a second passenger. Seorin sat with her hands folded on her lap, the nightgown still clinging to her like the memory of death. He didn't ask her name. She didn't ask his. The radio played nothing. The only sound was the humming of the engine and her shallow breathing. She glanced at him. Just once, and caught him staring at the road, not like someone focused, but like someone trying to forget. Was she safe with him? Or was he another kind of abyss? Either way, she was already inside. His apartment wasn't warm. It was clinical. Like a place someone sleeps but never dreams. Seorin stood at the doorway, uncertain. Her bare feet touched the cold tiled floor, as if the house itself was holding its breath. He didn't look back to invite her in. He just walked ahead, as though he expected her to follow. The hallway smelled like old rain and cigarettes. Pictures on the wall were turned backward. Every mirror was covered. The apartment was wrong. Not dirty, not messy, just wrong. Like someone tried to erase the idea of comfort entirely. Seorin stood still as he walked to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and drank it without offering her any. She watched his back. It was straight. Composed. Too composed, for someone who claimed to have found her unconscious in the rain. Then he finally turned, and for the first time, he spoke. "You should sleep." His voice was low, but it wasn't a suggestion. It was a decision. He opened a door. No explanation. No warning. Just a nod, and she stepped inside. The room smelled faintly of dust and something older, something forgotten. There was a bed, barely touched. A vanity with no mirror. And a wardrobe with the doors sealed shut with tape. It was like entering someone else's silence. Seorin sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't cry. She didn't sleep. She just stared at the space where the mirror should have been. She wondered if she had walked into kindness or a cage. And in the hollow stillness of that night, one thing became very clear. This man didn't rescue her. He chose her. She sat on the bed, still. The air was thick. Waiting. Then, a soft knock. She didn't answer. The door creaked open just enough for his voice. "I left clothes outside. They'll fit you." Then silence. Then the click of the door. She stared at it. Not because he offered clothes, but because he knocked. The room didn't change overnight, but something inside her did. Seorin lay curled on top of the blanket, not under it. The walls watched her like quiet judges. Her eyes didn't close. They just waited. At dawn, he came in. Not a knock. Not a greeting. Just the soft shuffle of his feet. He carried a glass of warm water and a plain folded shirt. He placed them on the vanity where the mirror should have been and left. No words. No glance. like she was a shadow he had to care for but not see. She drank the water, because thirst wins over fear. The shirt was a man's, clean, soft, oversized, still warm from the dryer. She sniffed it before she put it on. It smelled like soap and something faintly unfamiliar, maybe him. She sat back on the bed, in that shirt, bare legs folded beneath her, as if waiting for another instruction. That never came. The door was slightly ajar now. He left it that way. Seorin stood at the threshold. Not stepping out. Just listening. There was no TV. No music. No sound. And then she heard it, water running. A washing machine humming softly, steady, like a heartbeat. And she saw something that made her throat tighten. Beside the machine were her clothes. Her underclothes. Neatly folded. Still damp. Still warm. Later that day, she heard the front door unlock. He had gone out. She hadn't even heard him leave. Now, he returned with a paper bag. No plastic. No brand name. Just brown paper, folded tightly at the top. He placed it outside her room. Inside were 2 toothbrushes, a comb, socks, a small towel, and a box of sanitary pads. She stared at it for a long time, her hand hovering over the items. It felt like kindness, but it also felt like control. That night, she ate for the first time. He didn't sit across from her. He didn't speak. He placed the bowl in front of her, hot rice, seaweed soup, an egg. And then he left. Seorin ate in silence, tasting nothing. But every bite felt like surrender. Afterward, she washed the bowl and set it back where she found it. He didn't praise her, but later that night, he left a small heater near her bed. It became a rhythm. He never touched her, but he washed her clothes. He never smiled, but he folded her socks. He never asked how she felt, but he brought her painkillers the day she winced from cramps. It wasn't affection. It was maintenance. Like she was a fragile object he didn't trust himself to hold. She began to notice something strange. He only seemed content when she obeyed, when she ate what he made, used what he left, stayed where he expected. The one time she tried to explore the living room too long, the air shifted. He didn't shout, didn't scold. He just stood still, completely still, watching her, as if waiting for her to return to the bedroom, so he could breathe again. She tested it, left her socks unfolded, didn't eat the food he prepared, didn't come out at all the next day, and he stopped bringing things, stopped turning on the heater. The silence grew colder. Seorin realized something. His peace depended on her submission. She tried to speak to him once. A whisper in the hallway, "What do you want from me?" He didn't answer. Just walked past her. But that night, the bed had a blanket folded at the edge. And there was warm tea on the vanity. That was his answer. She began to follow the rules. Because when she did, he looked softer. Not happier, but less haunted. And somehow, she wanted that. To be the reason the silence didn't feel like punishment. To be his calm. His ritual. His fragile peace. Even if it meant losing whatever was left of her own.